Hello everyone, this is SOB, and I'm going to go over that D7 build you just saw in that video, and then the parse and the tactics we used in that hive. First up, let's look at the build itself. This is pretty similar to the ISA build I posted for this ship the other day in the video and on STO builds. Just your normal Terran Task Force plus Coalition setup. I finally picked up some damage force for a very costly 2 billion EC. The Iconian set. I swapped the Ominous Device console, the console that the ship came with. I swapped that for a Conductive RCS with EPS, and I've been getting a little bit more out of that. Leech, the Regenerative Integrity Field, and Timeline Stabilizer. Then 3 plus threat EPG consoles, and 4 vulnerability locators with the disruptor buff. Pretty common stuff. Skill tree wise, I do have this character on attack ultimate setup because I feel that with it being a threat build with Delta Prime and improved feedback, that it's getting up close enough to that 50% already that I'm fine to move over to this. I would still say that most people are going to get more out of the Science Ultimate because this tack ult only really helps in certain situations like high-end runs that you just saw in the video, exotic builds in CCA, and not really many other places. Spec tree wise, just your normal temporal primary, strategist secondary. The strategist tree also, if you don't know, that's where I'm getting all my cooldown reductions from. Attrition Warfare 2 in Tier 2 whenever I hit a hull heal, so hazard emitters or brace for impact on this setup. Up to once every 20 seconds, I get a 30% bridge officer cooldown reduction, so it's pretty good. Traits. This is the Hive variant of my setup, which I did post and talk a little bit about in the comments on the build I posted the other day. So I swapped, I forget what trait, for Give Your All, which just helps you dodge some incoming damage when you hit any engineering abilities. And I think that's actually the only personal trait that I swapped over because we didn't actually need much survivability in these runs. Starship traits are the same, your normal emergency weapon cycle, supremacy, invincible, Delta Prime, improved feedback, normal for a threat build. Then your normal space rep traits, your armor pen, the energy refrequencer, crit chance, severity, Nukara Ox offensive. All that's normal. Now, bridge officers, the thing I've changed from the ISA build is I've dropped the emergency power to engines because you don't need to move as much here. And then I moved down to emergency power to weapons 1. I did this so that I could fit in DEM, because DEM with Marion is giving me a little bit of DPS, which I felt was worth the loss of the Cat 2 buff, the 6.6 I'd be getting from emergency power to weapons 3 over emergency power to weapons 1. Dem 2 did 10k itself in most of the runs, and then increased the weapon damage a little with Marion. In some runs, I did try Charged Particle Burst instead of TBR, but in the end, I decided to go with TBR to trigger Control Amplification in the skill tree, which is a minus 35 all damage resistance rating debuff to anything it hits for 10 seconds. Whereas Charged Particle Burst was triggering Drain Infection, which then triggered the Temporal Operative debuff, but I'm still finding I was having the higher results with the TBR. Okay. Now, Doff-wise, I swapped Dilreen out for a Nukul Warfare Specialist that has a 20% chance when I activate any Tactical Bridge Officer ability to give me some healing based off of my outgoing damage. So that can trigger off of any outgoing damage. So feedback, any of that. So it's pretty powerful. It's not the highest healing thing, but every little bit can help. Then an energy weapon officer for the crit severity, the attack pattern beta healed off from the Delta Ops pack, a fabrication engineer to increase the duration of RSP, Marion that I've already mentioned, and then a TBR pulled off. So it's all pretty common stuff. Now let's look at the parse. Now, the parse I had myself was like 1:14, but someone else in the run started theirs right around the time they started shooting, so that's how we got it at 1:07. So, let's look here. Everyone was doing pretty high. We all split the threat, basically. Everyone had feedback pulse on. 4 of us on the team were running coalitions. Coalitions are just wonderful weapons, especially in something like this. If we go look at the damage sources I had, feedback pulse actually wasn't the top, which is surprising. But the coalition fought 3, 92k. If you want to look at the parse, you can download it. I'll put a link in the description, and I'll or you can just go download it off the table, because I believe this is a record for this character, Smoketh's character, and a few others. But I do want to point out recursive shearing. That's one of the things that makes the D7 so good. Recursive shearing, I'll go back to it in game here. What this does is I mark it on a target, and it takes the starting HP, and after 5 seconds it subtracts the HP then, and it gives you 45% of the HP that was taken away instantly. So if we do 1,000,000 damage to a target in 5 seconds, I would get 450k out of it. Now, that's a pretty powerful thing, and it allows for some nice max 1 hits. In some runs, it's really crazy. We've actually seen 4 to 5 million max 1 hits with it. It's absurd. And I guess I'll just quickly look at the threat here. Yeah, we all had pretty high amount of threat. As I said, we were all doing feedback pulse. Now let's go and look at the run itself again. So in these runs, we're all tactical, because the reality is if you're going for speed runs or trying to do high-end stuff, tactical has a massive advantage over the other careers. I mean, with the Kabali console, tacticals are tanking better than engineers in a situation like this. The engineering captain ability heals are just a joke. Maybe Cryptic will fix them at some point, but I doubt that'll happen anytime soon. And then science. Science doesn't have much going for it. The sub-nuke will help against the Queen, but most of us are able to survive through the Queen with its feedback pulse and just kill it quickly anyways, so bringing an engineer or a psi into a run like this would ruin our ability to get speed records, because we're almost to the point of doing these things in a minute, which just needs everyone pumping out as much damage as possible. And what you'll also note here too is we had an average DPS in the run of like 300 and something K, so this is a run that not many people can go and just, get a team together to do that. So this strategy won't work for everyone, but it can still work pretty well if you're even got an average DPS in the team of about 200k. So let's look here. So the first thing I'll note is, in this video, we all go to the center. So us going to the center, it allows us to hit everything. It allows us to get feedback pulse on everything, and it allows us to pull threat. So we're killing everything in the center as fast as possible. Ideally, we want to kill everything in the center in 40 seconds. A little bit faster if possible. So what I did here when I got in was, if I go back just a little bit, a lot of us hit our GDFs right off the bat too with the A Good Day to Die trait. This isn't the best GDF possible, but it gives us a significant buff right off the bat, instead of waiting for us to take a little bit of damage to get a better GDF. So what happened here, if I can scroll back to the right point, so us going into the center, we hit our buffs, and then we hit our divisionary tactics. If everyone hits it at the same time, you guys can screw each other over a little bit. But if people stagger them just a little, because you can't have your feedback pulse up 100% of the time. So if you have half the team hit theirs with their feedback off the bat, and then the other two on the team hit it, 15, 20 seconds later, you've got more feedback pulse coverage, which we didn't quite coordinate well enough to do in this run, but we still did pretty well. So we just keep going. We're tanking everything here. We've hit RSP. I'm hitting recursive on random tac cubes when possible. Trying to keep buffs up. We had a lot of an issue here too with a lot of runs we'd get screwed over because a cube or a sphere would randomly go like 15 kilometers out, which just killed our runtime. This run specifically was just really lucky. Now I'm gonna see here when the cutscene pops up. So we completed the entire first phase in 40 to 41 seconds, which is extremely fast, and this wouldn't have been possible even I think a year ago, or even half a year ago, because the tac cubes used to have randomly high resistance, but they resolved that issue, and now they all have your normal resistance that they're supposed to have, and they do. Well, they just like to pop real easily. And then we got to the center. I hit the tackled and recursive on one of the Borg pickles. All cruisers that were on attract fire for the first stage should swap to the weapon aura for the weapon power cost resistance, because there's no point to try to pull threat off of the pickles, because the pickles and the queen target randomly. So let's see here. We just blaze through these pretty fast. Yeah, if you see that recursive there, you find it. So it jumped from 70% down to 50 something in just like a matter of a second because of recursive triggering. Just look at that again. Yeah, it goes very fast. You can see we're getting a nice amount of coalition stacks. Not a lot quite yet, but they build up. So before one of them died, I don't know if you saw, one of them had 3 coalition procs on them and the other had 5. Each of those is a minus 20 disruptor damage resistance rating debuff. I didn't get my recursive up fast enough here, so I missed out, and we probably lost about a second or two because of that. So there's definitely room for potential here. I should have hit recursive on the queen immediately because we start pounding it, as we see here. Yeah, if I would have just hit my recursive there, that would have been a bit better. Yeah, when the queen starts doing feedback, we can just hit the Kabali console. And at this point, too, you see it's at 22%. This little thing here, that's 8 Coalition Disruptor procs. That is 160 Disruptor resistance debuff on this thing. So, it's just a great thing. It's why Coalitions are so good. And right before the Queen died, it actually jumped up to 9. And that was that. So hopefully this video's helped you a bit. I hope it's been a bit informative. Hopefully I wasn't rambling on too much. I'm going to also be uploading another video here shortly after this one. It's not going to be as long, but it's just basically going to be the run and look at the build and what changes I made to it, because I was messing around with a cannon setup in some of these runs, so I know there's going to be people out there like, oh man, you guys are just all using, fire at will and so boring. So this is a run where I'm doing like 330, I think it was, 320, 330 with the Coalition dual cannons in here. So just keep an eye out for that, and thanks for watching.